Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode of The Edge. I'm your guest host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. I also have a radio show here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. And today I am joined by a fellow host here on the Orion Talk Radio Network, a good friend of mine, veteran and retired, not former, because you're never really a former Marine, a retired Marine, my good buddy, Kenneth Hildebrand Sr. Hoorah! What's up, Ken?
Hey, Popeye, what's going on, man? What'd you do with Stokes? You stick him in a closet or something?
He's off on some sort of secret super John Stokes mission.
Oh, working for the TSA again, is he?
Well, you know, it's funny that you say the TSA, Ken. That actually segues me to the first thing I want to get into tonight with you. And you and I have a habit of going off on rants, and John has a nice format here with like 21-minute long segments, and we're going to have plenty of room to go off on things. And we were talking earlier, and you were telling me about this little girl was 18 months old?
Yeah, she's 18 months old. Her and her parents got on an airplane in Fort Lauderdale, and the TSA pulled her off the plane because she's on a no-fly list. Her parents are Middle Eastern descent, but they're both American-born. Their daughter's American-born. She was born and raised in New Jersey. And they came on the plane and asked them to come off, and they said their 18-month-old child was on a no-fly list. So it just goes to show you never know how old these terrorists are going to be. You know, it's the father said he thinks that they were profiled because his wife wears a Middle Eastern headdress, which I think is a load. I think the problem is what it's always been. The TSA is totally incompetent, and they had to do something. You know, hey, we got to catch a terrorist one of these days. So they'll try just about anything to get to get themselves to look good. They're in the paper constantly for their inability to do anything properly, and now we've got another 18-month-old. I don't know if it's the fact that they're incompetent or they're pedophiles. It seems like a lot of kids are getting ripped off planes and strip searched and groped. And it's a heck of an organization we have there in the TSA. The total sexual assault.
I've told on my show before and on Bob's show, I think I even recited the story with you on air about the TSA guy I met. I happened to be at Winn-Dixie one night in Miami. I went to go pick something up at the Winn-Dixie, or one of the Winn-Dixies in Miami. Not like there's only one there. And the guy who was bagging groceries, and that was his sole job. I have to stress this point. His sole job was to bag groceries, Ken. He was not even a stock boy. He wasn't even allowed to push carts. His only job that he was allowed to do, and he expressed this and made sure that I understood that for some reason. But he was the bagger. He was like the head bagger or whatever. Well, he was also proud to be a TSA groper at the airport, which, A, goes to show you that they're not paying these guys very much if they have to get a second job as a bagger at the grocery store. And second of all, do you really want this fat slob loser rubbing your wife, rubbing your daughter, rubbing all over you, your son? And do you really think that guy is going to prevent terrorism?
Well, you know, the thing that gets me with this, I don't fly. I refuse to fly. If I had to go to Hawaii, I'd drive or row. I mean, you know, I'm not about to get groped. I'm not about to put my wife through that. But what I find is interesting, do these guys change their gloves in between people that they grope? Because there's an article that a young college girl, I guess, went to South America and was on one of those drag lines, you know, where you ride all the way down and that. And now she's fighting for her life because she has a flesh-eating disease. Well, what if she went to the airport and they groped her, and then they turn around and they grope the next one, and then they grope the next one? You know, these people, the TSA ought to be shut down just for the fact that they are possibly an infectious disease. little, just to mention the fact that they are embarrassing people, violating their Fourth Amendment rights, and people just go along with this whole thing. They love it,
It makes us safer, Ken.
Yes, it does. I feel safe all the time. I mean, I go to the bathroom, I call the TSA and let them check out the toilet so I can feel safe.
Well, now you can't even get away from it. Now they want to do it on the roadways. We're going to have TSA check you while you drive to the mall because terrorists are using our interstate roadways. Really? Really? For what? I haven't seen anything going on. Where's the terror? Oh, I know what terrorists they're referring to that are on the interstates and on the roadways. They're referring to the terrorists with the flashy red lights on their cars.
Yeah, and the phony little Kmart badges and the little toy guns.
Yeah, and the little uniforms. Those are the terrorists that they're talking, or not uniforms, costumes. What am I talking about? Costumes, the Halloween costumes that they wear with them flashy red lights and stuff, right? That's what you're talking about. Those are the terrorists.
I found it interesting that they pulled off one of those Viper things in Tennessee, I believe it was. They had Viper teams all over the state pulling people over on the roads and talking to the truckers. And, the paranoia in Washington is starting to spread throughout this country because they're making everybody else paranoid. There's a terrorist everywhere. You go to the grocery store, see something, say something. I did. The fruit in that aisle is bad. Well, that's not what we're talking about. It's ridiculous. Do
you know when you call the see something, say something hotlines, multiple people have done this. Jones has done it. I've done it. Tuscan's done it. Other people have done it. You call the 800 numbers, and you know what they tell you?
They put you on hold?
First they put you on hold. Then when you get a live human being answering it, they tell you to call your local police department. So we asked the one that we called. It was FBI, and we said, well, why are we supposed to call the police department if we're supposed to call you guys first? No. You see, you report to us and we take a note and we make note of it. But then in order to get action done, you must call your local police department. Well, then why did I waste my time calling you? And why the hell am I wasting my tax dollars paying you to sit there and take notes? I don't want you to take friggin' notes, you useless bureaucratic turd. Hang up and fire yourself. As soon as you hang up the phone, fire yourself. Punch out and go home. You're done. And your boss, too, and in fact, the whole building can just turn off the lights and leave. I mean, dude, talk about a bureaucratic waste of money, Ken. Oh, my God, I'm seeing something and I'm saying something. Sir, please call your local police department. But you're the FBI. You're DHS. You're supposed to see. I'm supposed to see something and say something to you. Well, we're saying something. We're saying that you should call your local police department. Unbelievable.
Well, it's like calling the suicide hotline and going, suicide hotline, please hold.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible to laugh at, but that happens.
It does. I mean, I've got a bumper sticker on the back of my car for veterans, guys that are stressed out and that, and I've never called the number, but I just wonder sometime if they get on the phone, call the number, suicide hotline, please hold. And then by the time they get back to them, there's dead silence on the other end of the phone. Or all they hear is a gunshot or something. This whole government thing, it's nothing more than spend money, and they don't care. As long as it's not their money, they don't care. It's our money. And they're paranoid. Washington is paranoid. They worry about everything.
They fear us, dude. You want to know why? I've said this on my show 1,000 times. I can sum it up everything that's going on in a few sentences. All this police state stuff, everything. They fear us. They fear everybody. And they're projecting their fear outward because, like a bully, they don't know how else to deal with things. So they're just going to sit there and posture and beat their chest. And yeah, they could try to start rounding people up, but that would really be a bad thing.
Well,
that wouldn't go very well for either side. And they're very well aware of that. So a lot of this is, you better not screw with us. If anybody that had an older brother. And you're like the younger sibling, the older brother always, I'll kick your ass. Don't you say this? Don't you do that? Always posturing. And they might try to pull something off here or there, and they're getting a little out of hand. But a lot of that is because of this whole attitude. Once you have corruption at the very top like that, it just starts to leak down, and then it becomes pervasive through everything in the entire establishment. And once you're plugged into that, there's a lot of people that it attracts people that are dirtbags. I mean, look, dude, TSA years ago, the people that worked at TSA are not. Most of them are not the same people.
No, and a lot of those people are gone because they had an IQ.
Yeah, and they refused. This has come out. Former TSA employees have said that they sent out a memo saying, "Do you have a problem with, groping people, this, that, the other thing?" And the people that said yes all got fired. The only people that stayed were the ones that didn't have an issue with it.
That's because they answered, groping people? Oh, yeah, I want to do that. It's like my dad used to tell me when I was a kid growing up, and you had everybody had the neighborhood bully. And my dad was absolutely right. He says, the next time he picks off you, haul off, and he says, smack him as hard as you can right in the face. Bust his nose open. Once you do that, the bully goes somewhere else because he no longer can control you with fear. And that's what this government is doing. They're using nothing but fear. Now we've got that piece of garbage in the White House. And I'm sorry for you people that love Obama. But if you think about what he said the other day, all of a sudden now he supports gay marriage. And the reason he supports gay marriage is because he needs funding to get reelected. It's not because he believes it.
Yeah, it's not actually that he actually cares about anybody's rights or anything. He's using that as a political platform. Dude, I 100% agree. It's disgusting. And there's people out there who are like, oh, look, he embraces it. No, he doesn't. You're being used. None of these politicians care about any of us. They're all scumbags. And you're right. He's doing it because he needs the funding from Hollywood.
Sure he does.
That's why. He needs the funding for his re-election campaign for Hollywood. This is all about getting reelected and furthering this agenda. This has nothing to do with anybody's rights. That is such a red herring, Ken. Good call. Ken gets the gold star of the day.
Ooh, goody. Can I go grope people now?
No, with the gold star, you get to be in charge of all the gropers.
Oh, I want to grope people, man. I want to go stand at the airport.
But you're a supervisor. You get to deny people's civil liberties when they complain about being groped. You get to say, you must do it.
No, I want to go over there with the hot women and go, no, you're not groping her right. You got to grope her this way.
You want to be a trainer for TSA?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. Ken, you are now anointed TSA trainer. Bing.
Trainer. I'll have to call him up and see if I can get in there.
Let me break out my magic DHS douchebag stick. Hold on. Oh, here. I now anoint you, Ken, TSA groper trainer extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire. There we go.
Unbelievable. You know what else is even... Dude, this is right in the same lines, and I think this is the same story you were talking about in New Jersey. Was it Fort Lee?
Yeah, they're...
dangerous walking?
Yep. Fort Lee, New Jersey, cracking down on dangerous walking by handing out summonses.
Dun, dun, dun. Because handing out a summons, listen to me, handing out a summons really does anything.
Well, it says...
Besides make money.
Well, yeah, that's what it's for. But they said, forget about dangerous driving. Pedestrians are the new threat to street safety. Phone calls, texting, music, wandering into traffic. Now one New Jersey town is cracking down on the practice. They're actually ticketing people that are texting or you're talking on your cell phone. They said, the one guy said he counted 23 pedestrian accidents since January, ranging from minor bumps and bruises to 3 fatalities. Wow. 3 fatalities.
Good. Less morons on the planet.
They came... This is they're noted for this stuff. Remember when H1N1 was the big thing and they were talking about a worldwide epidemic? We've had 23 people died in China. Dude, they got 2 billion people there. You got more than 23 people dying from falling down the stairs. But no, it's going to be a worldwide epidemic, so everybody's got to go get their flu shot. Hey, shoot this. It's the paranoia. They are trying to control the population through fear. The problem is there are so many weak-minded people out there, they're doing a pretty damn good job of it. And it's the same thing with this. They had 3 fatalities. These people might have walked in front of the bus anyhow. They could, you got a lot of people, you watch some of the people out there walking, they're thinking about their daily lives and everything else. What are we going to do? Lock ourselves in rubber rooms and just hide? But
well, no. Ken, we need the nanny state because the nanny state will protect us.
Yeah, I got something they can nanny.
What they're going to do is they're going to keep all of us in rooms, right? all day long, like you said. Constant supervision, cameras, microchips. We're going to walk around when we go outside. By the way, the room will be padded. When you go outside, you'll be wearing one of those dog training suits. So that when you walk around, you possibly, if you fall down, you might bump yourself. You'll be protected. People won't be allowed to drive cars because, hey, cars, you could have an accident. You could get hurt. So no more long-distance travel. You can't fly because planes could have a crash or there could be a terror attack. So if we just get rid of the planes, then the terrorists won't have anything to attack, right? So no more travel. And we might as well, I don't know, we might as well have a government agent sit in our house, in our bedroom, and tuck us in at night and sleep next to us with his sunglasses and his suit on. Don't worry, Ken, when you wake up, you'll be safe. I'll be here.
You can't assign a police officer to everybody. But you can let everybody carry a gun.
Well, it's like the saying says, Ken. I don't know how it is up in the north because I've lived down here in the south probably a little bit too long. But down here we have a saying, and it goes a little something like this. I carry a gun because a cop is way too heavy.
Yeah, they sure are.
Okay? I'm not going to walk around with a 200-pound police officer strapped to my hip. That's kind of bulky. And you have to feed it. And it's like having a pet. You have to walk it, take it. The gun, none of that. Just buy some bullets.
Yeah, not a problem. It's like that public service announcement that I did for Orion here. Let me play this public service announcement for you. This is Ken from the Information Nation with a public service announcement. Due to the increase in the price of ammunition, do not expect a warning shot. Understanding. That's my public service announcement. No more warning shots. The ammunition is getting to be too darn expensive.
Don't you live in a state where you can't even have a gun?
No, well, they tried that, but that didn't quite work.
Or is that just Chicago that you can't have guns?
Well, Chicago tried that, and they got their butt kicked at the Supreme Court, so now they're trying something else. But Illinois, we are the only state without a concealed carry. So all of you criminals out there, come on to Illinois and have a field day. Although, if you do break into my house, I will put two in your chest.
It can, just so people understand, as a retired Marine, and once a Marine, always a Marine, and Marines have a saying, a rifleman first. So all I know is Ken knows how to shoot. Don't try to break into his house.
Well, the thing is, when they teach you to shoot, they tell you go for body mass. There's too many people. I want to shoot the gun out of his hand. No, you're not. You're going to pump two in his chest.
I'm going to shoot the gun out of. I love that, dude. Well, okay, Billy the Kid.
Yeah, the thing is, forget about trying to be fancy shot or anything else. Shoot for body mass.
Dude, they don't understand that during a situation like that, your adrenaline is going to be going to the point where your muscles are going to be like, and that's where training and nothing else will get you past through that. If you've never experienced that, unless you've trained for that or put yourself through it, which is kind of like what training is, you're not going to know what to expect and be prepared for it. And that's why they say shoot center mass, because if the person's moving the gun around because they're so amped up, it doesn't matter because you're going to hit them. If you hit somebody, 3 inches below his left breast and you're using hollow points, it's really not going to matter if you put 2 or 3 rounds into him and you hit him there or you hit him, 6 inches higher. I mean, maybe 6 inches higher would kill him instantly because you'd hit him in the heart. But you're going to cause damage more than likely. He's going to die, okay, especially with the anti-personnel rounds.
Well, the whole thing is if you hit him anywhere, it's going to give him it's going to slow him down to the point where he's not going to do anything, and it gives you time to get off the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth round.
That's why we always train 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. Of course, we weren't supposed to. When we trained the guys on the range, we weren't supposed to teach them that. It was supposed to be 2 in the chest. But
that's why I always say, pump 2 in the chest. It's not a problem. But the whole thing with military training, too, is the reason it's training is they don't want you to act. They want it to become a natural reflex. You get in a situation, your body just automatically reacts to the situation.
Muscle memory.
Yes. Because
they don't want you to, why all that stuff is and why they amped up all the training, Ken. Well, I'm sure you know this. During World War II, they realized that it was like, I think 1 in 10 soldiers or something like that wouldn't fire his weapon. when they came under fire and stuff like that, or if it came to killing another human being, they couldn't do it.
Well, I think some of the people back then, they had issues. I don't have those issues. And it's a totally different situation. The same thing with people that say, oh, yeah, man, if I was in there, I would do this and I would do that.
Yeah, okay.
You don't know until you're in that situation. And by that time, they don't want you thinking. They want you to react just as normal as getting up in the morning and walking to the kitchen.
Fort Lee, New Jersey. Apparently, dangerous walking is a problem. Apparently, there are dangerous walkers, which I guess are like terrorists. How would you say dangerous walker and add an ist to it? Because you always have to put that ist on it to make it bad. Walkerist. There you go.
Walkerist, man.
A dangerous walkerist.
So I guess they're going to go after little old ladies and little old men with walkers. We've gotten out of hand with all of this stuff. It's gotten to the point where it's ridiculous. Kind of like when they go over and they go to grab you kind of look at it and say the magic white, and the bird will come down, you win a prize. The only thing that I can say is if I was ever at driving down the road and they had one of these roadblocks and the guy could, get out of the car. No. That's where they get ticked off, is they're not used to the word no. Two little letters, they're right next to each other in the alphabet, N and O. Get out of the car. No. They don't know how to handle that. They really do not know how to. What are you going to do? Pull your gun? What are you going to tase me, bro? Go ahead. Because you tase me, I got a heart condition. I drop over dead. My wife is going to own your butt, and the department's butt, and everybody else's butt. But we just, people just, I don't know what it is. They see somebody in a uniform, all right? Oh, that guy's in a position of authority. No, he's not, because you've got waiters in restaurants that wear uniforms. They're not in a position of authority. But people are not used to giving cops or TSA or anybody else a hard time. They tell you, get in this machine here, we're going to take a picture of you naked. No. Well, then we're going to have to frisk you. No, you're not. People look at the alternative media and they say, well, those people are crazy. No, we're not. We have a little thing called the Constitution. All we're asking is follow it. You don't have the right to stick your hand down my pants or grab my wife's breasts or anything else or search it. There was a 3-year-old with a broken leg in a wheelchair. There was a video on YouTube, if you didn't see it. Unbelievable. This poor little kid, he didn't know what the hell was going on. Sitting there, they're frisking him. Then they turn around and they swipe him down for explosives. What kind of a meathead does this?
Dude, how about the police brutality? How about the police brutality upkick and the utter brutality against females? I mean, have you seen this newest article from ABC? I was reading this while you were commenting, and I'm astounded, dude. This woman was blinded by pepper spray. Blinded out in California. She was sprayed in the face during a field sobriety test. I don't know if she was drunk or not, but they were giving her a field sobriety test, and I guess she said something that the cop probably didn't like, whatever the case. Long story short, they pepper sprayed her in the face, like directly in her eyes. They've blinded her, and her doctors have said she'll probably never ever see again, ever. Well, and how is that acceptable? Well, she shouldn't have mouthed off or got combative. So you blind her? Her punishment is taking away her vision? That's assault. He assaulted her. He took away her vision. That officer should lose his badge, and this should serve. By the way, this isn't just about him. It's about policy, and it's about the pepper spray. It's about I know you need things to subdue certain types of people, but there should be. It shouldn't be a fail-safe for everything. Tasers shouldn't be a fail-safe. And here's another thing. Why is it that cops who never, ever, ever are afraid to use tasers ever, okay, why is it when there's a case that actually the taser should have been used, they pull their guns and use their guns?
Because they can't make that decision.
Exactly.
Because they see with a taser, they think it's a non-lethal weapon, but you get somebody who has a pacemaker, or a heart condition, or a guy that's on kidney dialysis, and you don't know what a person's got going. A person can look perfectly healthy and have a lot of things going on the inside. It's like looking at a beautiful car, but the engine's not running right. So you rip out your taser and go, yeah, I'm not going to take this, zap, and the guy drops over dead. Now what are you going to do? What happened to your non-lethal force then? It has become lethal force, and the situation didn't call for it, so it calls for this guy to go to jail. Saying, well, I didn't know he had a pacemaker is not an excuse. It's not an excuse. Did the situation warrant that type of force? That's the first thing you need to look for. Well, he told me he wasn't going to show me his ID, so I tasered him and took his wallet out of his pants. No, dude, that does not call for that type of force. But people...
I know. It pisses you off. I know it does. It gets me fired up too, Ken. I mean, are you kidding me? How about they shot that 68-year-old Marine? That black guy. And then the one cop, what the hell is the grand jury thinking? Were they not shown evidence? This guy has cases pending against him previous. He screams, obviously, the racism is used as a red herring or a straw man argument at times. But in this case, it was, this guy was completely, yelling out racist crap at this guy, making fun of it, the fact that he was a Marine Corps veteran and everything else. And open the goddamn door, we're going to kick it in, and we're going to blah, 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 and all this. And he did all this. You know what it was about? Because he accidentally set off his medical alert tag in his sleep.
Yeah.
He's got a heart condition. He's a 68-year-old Marine Corps Vietnam vet. Yeah, and he's like, I'm fine, leave me alone. His family, who lives upstairs, he's fine, leave him alone. But nope, cops had to show up with guns and a battering ram, or not a battering ram, a shield. And then when he stuck something out the door, they said it was a knife. And they, oh no, now you got to go down. And then they kick the door in, and when they kick the door in, the last video of him is him standing there, and he's not doing anything. He doesn't have anything in his hands. He's in his house, and they kick his door in and taser him in his house. And when he didn't go down, one cop pulls his gun out and shoots him through his side. Totally unarmed. Guy didn't do anything. He didn't do a thing. And you know what? The grand jury lets this cop off.
Well, the grand jury, they feel safe.
Yeah, they feel safe, all right.
One less ex-Marine out there, former Marine.
I'm just, this guy's got no justice, and then the federal government's like, whoa, we're looking into it. Yeah, we're looking into it. This is such crap.
The only thing the federal government looks into is Arizona's immigration law, Joe Arpaio. What was the other one? Alabama or Georgia came out with an immigration law. They're looking into that. The only thing this administration is doing is attacking the individual states. But when it comes to people like the Black Panthers intimidating voters, or going down there putting out a warrant on Zimmerman's head for $10,000, dead or alive, oh no, we don't look into that. We don't look into that at all.
Well, this is corruption, dude. It's complete corruption.
Yeah, this is Chicago-style politics. I've watched this for years.
Yeah, the thugs are in charge, basically.
Sure they are. Look at what's going on in Chicago now. They're going to shut this. They're going to shut that city down.
Well, Ken, you're a resident of Illinois. Tell me your take on what's going on with the NATO summit.
Personally, I think let them have their little damn summit, but you don't have to get as crazy with the security. They're telling people in Marina City Towers they should move out until the summit is over. Marina City is probably, 10 miles away from the summit. Why would they have to move out? I mean, I could see it if you were across the street, but even then you're not going to be across the street because they're holding it at McCormick Place. There's a massive hotel there. There's an expressway in between that and the rest of the city. It's nuts. It boils down to paranoia. And this is NATO, for crying out loud. How many drones are they going to have flying over that city? Look what they did in Libya. You're just going to Chicago.
Dude, it's unbelievable. And a lot of these citizens are like, well, if it's to protect me because there's going to be bad people here. Are you that stupid? Are people that dumb up there, dude?
They're that dumb everywhere, dude.
No, I know, but you know what I mean. Are people in Chicago that like, yes, Rom, we love you, yay?
Well, sure they are.
Oh, no.
I'm going to tell you something. You could turn around and run the biggest scum. You could run Jeffrey Dahmer for city of Chicago, mayor, if he were still alive. And if the Democratic Party said, that's our guy, he's in. That's how bad it is up in Illinois. We hold the number one position as the most corrupt state in the union. And we're damn proud of that.
You guys should make T-shirts and bumper stickers.
I think some of them have. The one place that even the cops don't go is into the hood, though, man. They stay away from that. And then the people are complaining. Well, the people can't protect themselves. The police aren't there to protect the people, which, according to a Supreme Court ruling, the police do not have to put themselves in harm's way.
Oh, that's right. The Supreme Court ruled that the cops aren't there to protect you.
That's right. They are an investigative force that only has to get involved after a crime has been committed. They do not have to put themselves in harm's way.
Cool. So I'll act according with my Second Amendment then.
Yeah. So but in the you got drive-by shootings and everything else in Illinois or in Chicago. Chicago is Chicago. What can I tell you? But to disarm the people, that's why they have the problem.
What do the people feel? How do the people feel, though? Do they want guns, Ken, or are they all brainwashed? That are they like, oh my God, if there's a gun, I've literally seen people. I've seen it where and I've heard other people, other hosts in the past talk about this, or even people tell me about this, and I thought they were nuts, But I've literally seen it with my own eyes that people do freak out like this. I've seen people literally have an apoplectic fit over a gun, just seeing it.
My sister-in-law is like that. We had her over at the house. She was spending a weekend with us, and we got on the topic of guns. So I went into my dresser. I pulled out my .357. I put it down on the table, and she got all freaky. Oh, that's a gun. I said, well, let's see if it kills somebody. She says, well, I says, it's an inanimate object. And it sat there the whole time for about 3 hours. We're sitting at the kitchen table just talking. At the end of the night, I said, it hasn't killed anybody yet. Well, it could have. I says, how could it do that? Well, it's a gun. I said, it's an empty gun.
Yeah, you're lucky. You're lucky, Ken. You have no idea how lucky you are.
Yeah, except for the fact that I took all the rounds out of it before I put it on the kitchen table.
In a world where guns rule. I mean, God, I just hate that train of thought, dude. I have so many people I know that are so intelligent, but that they're like, guns? Guns are illegal. Guns are only for the military and the police. And I'm like, no, dude, what? Well, hunting. No, not hunting. The Second Amendment wasn't about hunting. Let's cover this misnomer really quick. The Second Amendment wasn't about hunting. You want to know why? Back in the day, if you didn't hunt, you didn't eat. So that was a moot point. If you chose not to hunt because I choose not to hunt because I don't like the Second Amendment and I abhor guns. Well, that's cool. You and your family are going to starve to death.
Or become vegetarians.
Yes. Even the liberal-minded people had guns to shoot and kill animals so they could feed their families. Okay? So hunting was a moot point back in the day. So the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting or fishing or sports.
Yeah, and then they try to get you to believe that, what the Founding Fathers meant was, the National Guard. There was no National Guard. A militia is citizens that get together that are going to protect their neighborhood or their town. That's what a militia is. It's not the National Guard. we have a lot of people that are very misinformed in this nation. And I don't really mean to bust Rahm Emanuel's cherry, but there's probably more people carrying in Illinois than there are carrying in Florida. At least in Chicago.
You just don't know it.
I know a lot of people when they go into Chicago, loaded gun on them without a problem, because they just they know that there's problems in Chicago and there's nobody there to keep them safe or protect them.
Let me put it this way: when you're laying on the ground bleeding, are you going to be going, "Oh, state, save me, protect me"? As you're getting shanked, you're going to still lay there. State, come save me. And that's every time you get stabbed. Right? So it's like, what, 35, 40 times now? Save me. Police officer, save me. You know when the cop's going to show up? When you're dead and you're standing over, you're just like a ghost standing over looking at everything, and you hear the cop go, well, obviously somebody stabbed him. That's when the cops are going to get there, and that's when the brainiacs are going to get to work and try to figure out who killed you. You know what? You could save all of that. You could get rid of all of that. You could save all that time and money. You know how you can handle business? I'll tell you how you can handle business. Carrot. Oh, Ken, go ahead one more time.
Okay.
That's how you handle business.
That's right. That's taking care of business.
Do what you got to do. Learn self-defense. Don't be afraid to defend yourself. And by the way, do you see this crap the House Democrats, I think, that are doing it? They're trying to defund any federal funding of any sort to any state that has a self-defense or stand-your-ground law.
Yeah, I got that up for Sunday night show.
Unbelievable, dude.
Well,
unfreaking believable. And there are people that'll back this. People need to get pissed off, by the way, and call their senators and stuff. Do you know who it is?
I would call my senator, but I got Tricky Dicky Durbin. And
useless.
More than useless. The only thing he's there for is to collect the paycheck and tout the party line. Other than that, I don't even want to get into it about him. A couple of years ago, he jumped all over the veterans. And I thought, that's it. The son of a gun is gone. Nope. They put him back in. He was like, who was that one senator that turned around and said, the Marine Corps is kind of one of those things you put behind glass and only break in case of an emergency. I tell you how to get rid of the wars and everything else. Institute a draft.
I've said that before. Charlie Rangel said it before. When I interviewed Judith Baker, she said it.
Yeah, bring back the draft. Mm-hmm. Right now, people don't have... The only people who have a vested interest in what's going on in this...
Is half of 1%.
Yeah, it's the people whose children have enlisted.
It's half of 1%, literally.
Yeah, so let's get them all involved.
Yeah, see, the reason why the Vietnam War was... it was more effective with protesting and stuff back then was because it affected at least 50% of the population. Now, women can be in combat situations. So guess what? Now... It affects more than 50% of the population. If you made the draft mandatory right now, everybody in high school would have to serve a minimum of 2 years. You want to see how fast the war would end?
Oh, yeah.
And then you wouldn't need to draft anymore. You'd be able to cancel that too. I don't particularly like Charlie Rangel, but the one thing I did agree with him on was when he said that they should reinstitute the draft. And, of course, Fox News cut it and then attacked it, and a lot of conservatives attacked it and ate it right up, and nobody bothered to listen to actually what he was saying. And when you actually listen to what Charlie Rangel meant in the full context, he was speaking from a veteran's point of view, not from a politician. And I'm not saying Charlie Rangel's a clean guy. He's got his own ethics things going on, whatever. But he was speaking from a veteran's point of view. He was a Korean War vet.
You cannot throw out everything somebody says just because you don't agree with them.
He's a schmuck, but The point is that he was speaking from a veteran's point of view, and it was clipped and used as a political thing. And I'm not saying he was speaking in under the guise of being a politician, but where he was coming from was as his time in the war, he knows war is horrible, right? So he understands that what's going on it's just gone beyond the pale, and even being part of it anymore, a lot of people are starting to be like, all right, this is just out of hand now, right? Yeah. And he's saying the only way to end this properly would be to reinstate the draft, because he knows what Ken and I just said, that if you made more people eligible to go fight, this would end tomorrow. You would have millions of people out in the streets in every city, because they would be scared that they would be going. But right now, they don't have to worry about that. They go to college, maybe one of their friends, somebody from high school they went with, goes off to war, and maybe that kid dies, or he comes back missing a leg, or he comes back needing 18 surgeries to put him back together again.
Yeah. The other thing that they ought to do, and I get kind of torn about this, because I don't believe it should be, a reporter standing on a tarmac. But I think they should have pictures of the caskets coming back, draped with the flags. And if you've got a draft, on each casket that it's a female, you put a flower on there. And I'll guarantee you, once one good battle where you've got 15 or 20 women getting killed in battle, the war is over. The National Organization of Women will just... they will be all over that like white on rice. And the war's over, man.
But right now, you don't have to worry about it, because it's half of 1% that serves in the military right now. Half of 1% are the people that are going out and dying. And people go, well, just stop serving in the military. Yeah, because it's that easy to get over the propaganda, and we're working on that. Okay? Believe me.
Well,
But you really want to end wars, reinstate the draft.
That's like with the Occupy movement. I think if I ever go to one of the Occupy rallies, I'm going to, and they're screaming about, oh, man, they ought to pay for my tuition. But tell them, hey, I know exactly how you can go to college and you can get your tuition paid for in full. And then take them to the recruiter's office. Well, I ain't going to do that. Why not? Well, I could get killed, go to war and get killed. Yeah, so...
Yeah, nobody wants to get killed, Ken. That's I'm telling you, you want to end the war tomorrow, make everybody eligible for the draft, and the possibility that they could go over there, and more people will get involved. Right now, nobody cares. All right, top of the hour break coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Hour number 2 on its way. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, hour number 2. Here on today's edition of The Edge, I am your guest host, Popeye from FederalJack.com and Down the Rabbit Hole here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. And I'm joined today by my good buddy and fellow radio show host, Ken Hildebrand. Ken?
Yes.
Thank you for hanging out, by the way, buddy.
Hey, that's quite all right. Somebody's got to do it. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
You want to hear some more nanny state news?
Sure.
Okay. Down here in Florida, apparently, a Hialeah firefighter posted something on his Facebook page that pissed people off. I guess they got mad because they said he's racist and insensitive because, and I don't know who exactly is accusing him of it, but I'm sure it's some organization. But they say he's insensitive and he should be fired from his job. 10 years on the job. Should be fired from his job because he put there was a picture I guess he took of, he was driving through Hialeah and there's a picture of a guy riding with a scooter, and on the back of the scooter it's either, I think it's a goat, and the goat's like sitting on the back of the scooter and kind of like draped on the guy. It was either a goat or a dog or something, but I think it was a goat. And the guy put only in Hialeah, ha ha ha. You know, like he lives there, he's a firefighter there. What's the so big deal? You know, like it's a picture. He made a joke. It's his Facebook page, freedom of speech. But there's people that want him fired, and he's being investigated on whether or not, you know, he broke some rules or something. I mean, This is the nanny state. This is the bigger problem, Ken. People that get offended by things, right? People that get butthurt about things, they run off and, oh, I want the government to protect me. They got offended because this person posted a picture on their Facebook and it offended me. He's a firefighter. He should be held to a higher standard. Was he out there saying, racist things? No. Okay? He made a couple stupid jokes. And so what? Apparently the guy's married to a Cuban woman. So obviously he's not racist. You know what I mean? It's stupid. It's just stupid. And this is a microcosm of this bigger problem, okay? When you have, again, corruption and then people that have no personal accountability or anything, they oh, I need you to protect me. Oh, my feelings got hurt, Ken. Ken, protect me, Sheriff Ken. My feelings got hurt.
Too bad.
Exactly. That's how it should be.
These people, it's the same thing with the bullying stuff. They say, they posted a thing on Facebook about my daughter, and my daughter got all upset. She went off and killed herself. Your daughter's an idiot. Why would you even care what these people say?
Yeah, I did a show about bullying. It's partially that's the parents' fault because they didn't give that kid the proper self-empowerment to fight that. They should have known because they were children themselves once that kids are jerks and there are bullies. You know what my mother told me to do? She said, "Don't take the first swing, but you better end the fight." And I was like, 10-4. So I knew what I had to do. You know what I'm saying?
They put a posting on Facebook and they don't like what they say and right away their feelings got hurt. My thing is come back with a comment like F you.
Exactly. But first of all, who cares if somebody laughs at you or makes fun of you? I did a whole show about bullying, Ken, and a big problem, again, is parental responsibility because they don't empower the kids to have the self-esteem to deal with that kind of crap. Guess what? You're going to have to deal with that kind of crap your whole life. The sooner you learn how to deal with it when you're younger, when you have to deal with it when you're older, it'll be like old hat, like you said, muscle memory, like training. And, dude, people will just know by your demeanor that you don't tolerate that kind of crap, and a lot of times it won't even be started. And that's because you have that I don't want to say ego, that's the wrong term. That I guess self-empowerment, for lack of a better term. The person is, they feel good about themselves enough that they can stand up. The parents should be instilling that in the child, not putting them in front of the TV or telling them to listen to music or ignoring their kid because they're quote-unquote too busy working. Take the time out to be a parent. If you wanted to get pregnant and live the American dream and have offspring, then take the friggin' time and be the kid's parent.
That's the problem that we have today. We had a guy where I used to work. He tripped and fell, and another guy was standing there, and he started laughing because of the way he tripped and fell. It looked like one of those, pratfalls. And he gets up and he goes, "That wasn't funny." He says, he looks at him, he says, "If it wasn't funny, why am I laughing?" It was hilarious. Things like this happen in everybody's life. I mean, when we were kids growing up, man, it was nothing for a guy to bend over and all of a sudden he'd split the back of his pants and people would laugh at him. So what? It's an embarrassment. You get over it. You move on. These kids that are constantly bullying people and these kids, "Oh, he doesn't like me." Who cares? Why waste your time with them? Move on. Go to your friends. Do your thing. And ignore them. Two things you can do with a bully. If the bully is giving you all of this stuff on their Facebook page and the rest of it, ignore them. And if they're pushing you around in school, bust them in the chops. That's it. It's over with. What they're looking for, what a bully is normally looking for, especially, on the Facebook, and they're looking for attention. My response would be, you're looking for all of this attention by picking on me. What, didn't your mother breastfeed you? Or, don't you have the latest, greatest cell phone? Or, what's your problem? You got to bring it right back at them. You got to bust their chops.
Bully. When I was a kid, a lot of my friends and anybody that knows me growing up could attest to this, that a lot of the friends that I got were because they were getting bullied, and I just, I would see them getting picked on. And I'm not the kind of person, Ken, that can sit back and watch something go down that I know, if I know that I should, it's the right thing to do for me to get involved. And I'm not saying be a hero and run into every situation, but you know what I mean. If there's a situation that you should be getting involved in, I'm the kind of person that I have to do it. I have to, I can't sit back and watch somebody else get bullied by 3 or 4 people. And I ended up becoming like the bully to the bullies. Because apparently later on, I ran into somebody I went to high school with years later, and they told me that, it was like 8 years after we got out, and they were like, well, yeah, you were kind of a bully. And I was like, a bully? How was I a bully? And they're like, well, you got in fights a lot. I'm like, dude, do you realize who I was fighting? I was fighting the football players. I was fighting all these guys that were, all the jocks, all the bullies, the big preppies at the time. These were the kids that were picking on everybody. I was fighting them. I wasn't going around picking on the nerds or anything, but apparently I was the bully to the bullies.
Well, that's the problem. The problem is people won't stand up to a bully and these jocks. I mean, you look at a guy, they always say to a football player or baseball player, oh, excuse me, lunch coming up there.
That's a bully.
Yeah, you're a hero to the kids. No, he's not. People got to understand, a guy playing professional baseball or professional football, that's his job. A lot of them are as big a butthole as you are. Get over it. He's not an idol. Sure, you've got some of these guys out there that do tremendous work, with handicapped kids and underprivileged children and a lot of charities and that. But then you've got the other ones that are just total douchebags. So what are you going to do? You can say, oh, you're an idol. No, he's not. It's like, what's his name with the dog fighting thing? The football player. Oh, I don't know why the NFL brought him back in, because that's his job.
We shouldn't be idolizing anybody.
No.
You shouldn't idolize anything at all. First of all, why are sports players, why are these guys, this is another thing that leads to bullying, is that society's pressures that these parents and society itself puts on these children. You must conform to this. You must look like this. Dude, being a kid now is nowhere near as easy as it was when we were kids. I mean, things were tough. Things were a little maybe different in a certain aspect, but kids have a lot more pressure socially than we did. I mean, if we thought we had it bad,
back then, you could go face to face, nose to nose, knuckle to knuckle with a guy, and you didn't have a problem with it. Today, you can't have that fight because all of a sudden you're suspended from school. They take away your iPhone and they put you in therapy and on Ritalin. They don't understand. Kids have to, just like everybody else, just like the incident overseas with the Marines peeing on the corpse. These guys are under so much pressure, they had to have some type of outlet. Unfortunately, there was a body under it. But people today don't understand. They're all walking around so uptight that it's no wonder they're all having nervous breakdowns. Forget about being uptight. Who cares anymore? They should have learned something from the last financial crash. What are you going to do about it? You can stand there and complain about it, but what are you as an individual going to do? There's nothing you can do about it. The thing you can do about it is start bouncing some of these idiots out of Washington because of the bailouts and that. But other than that, what are you going to do about it? You just sit back and you go, screw it, man. It's part of life. And these kids today, they're overly sensitive.
Because the parents are not teaching them properly. And people are going to be like, F you, dude, blah, 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 whatever. You can say whatever you want to me. You can get mad at me for that. And anybody that has an emotional response to that rather than actually looking at things with logic, that should tell you something, okay? Because I'm not picking on anybody and making fun of people. I'm just saying the way people are being taught to raise their children today is wrong. Because children are not, and also the educational system, they're not being taught to think. They're not being taught to use their brains. Okay?
Yeah, they're teaching our kids.
Well, the people that teach them are what Charlotte Iserby called change agents. But a lot of this, again, goes back to being a parent. You should be more involved in your child's life and take more responsibility. My mother worked and went to school at night and still knew when I was up to something. And this is before cell phones and even pagers, okay? Pagers came out, later on when I was a little older, but my mother knew even before beepers, any of that crap. She had, like, the force, okay? Somehow she would get in touch with me, and she'd be like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, nothing. And she'd be like, well, whatever you're up to, I don't know what it is.
Stop it.
Yes, but stop it. I just know you're up to something and know that I'm on to you. And I was like, and I would hang up the phone and tell my friends, dude, we're not doing anything. And they're like, why? And I'm like, bro, my mom's using her witch magic again. There's no way. No. And it wasn't magic. It was my mother knew her children. And she was connected enough with us that her intuition would go off. Who knows how we were reacting, on some molecular level or what kind of signals we were sending off, whatever. The point is my mother knew me well enough that even when she was away from me, she knew that I was up to no good. And she would get on me about it. And rightly so. Look, if my mother and my father and my uncle, okay, had not given me I don't want to say they never really beat the crap out of me, but I did get my rear end whooped on multiple occasions. But if I guess if I didn't get the whoopings, I'll put it that way, because I don't want to put it like I was an abused child. I deserved the whoopings I got, dude. I really did. I was a little smart mouth when I was a kid, Ken.
And how far would it have gone if you had looked at your mother and said, "You touch me, and I'm going to have you arrested"?
I talked about this on air last night. My brother said that to my mother, and my mother proceeded to. She told him, "Oh, you're going to call DYFS and have me arrested for hitting you," because this is when they first started brainwashing the kids. And my brother was like, "Yeah," and she goes, "Okay," and she dragged him upstairs into his bedroom, and she said, "I'm gonna." Or no, she did it right there. She did it right in the living room. She said, "Oh, you're going to have me arrested. I'm going to give you a reason to have me arrested." And she proceeded to beat his ass right there in the living room. Then he marched up crying into his bedroom and closed the door. True story.
Yeah.
And I'm taking notes in the corner going, "Don't ever tell Mom you will have arrested."
Yeah.
I had a notepad. I was like, "Don't ever say." Yeah. But this goes back over 30 years. They've been putting this into kids' heads now. If your parents tell you no or smack you, that's abuse. And I don't condone beating a child with closed fists or anything like that. But every once in a while, a kid needs a good boot to the rear end. Okay, I did. Okay, and it straightened me out. It taught me respect for my elders. Okay, that's one of the biggest reasons children today don't have any respect for their elders, because they're put in the corner for 5 minutes for timeout when they mouth off to one of their parents, or the parent doesn't. They acquiesce every time. You've seen it, Ken, right? You go to the mall and the kid's there, "Mom, mom, 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 mom." When I was a kid, you got like 3 moms out, and then it was the back of the hand. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the difference between, and I got a lot of respect for black women, because you listen to this white woman. "Oh, Johnny, don't do that. Oh, you try that with a black woman, bam, right in the mouth. Sit down, shut up. I don't want to hear it. Wait till you get home. I'm gonna beat you again." It's all a matter of you have to take children sometimes, and they have to get spanked. I mean, my folks weren't, walk in the door, get a beating. But if you screwed up, you could figure that the old man was going to tan your hide pretty darn well. And if it wasn't him, it was my mom used to have this plastic hairbrush, and that thing used to leave red marks when she was done. But I'll guarantee you, for the next 6 months, you were as sweet as apple pie. Boy, you just learned real quick. But what are these kids going to do? They run around. They want everything given.
My mother was this tiny little Dutch woman. She was like 5'1", 5'2". It was just a tiny little thing. My friends that were 6'4" feared her.
Yeah, my mom wasn't that tall.
She didn't take any crap. My mother would walk in, and because she was small, so she had to like man up, and she would get like, when I was older. And I'm only 5'5", so I was only a couple inches taller than her. But when I was young, I would be a smartass, and I'd be like, "Ha ha, I'm still taller than you." And so her reaction was she'd punch me in the stomach, if I was mouthing off to her. And it wasn't like, she drew back. It was a playful, little shot in the gut just to let me know, keep it up. And you know what? I had an affectionate relationship with her. She passed away at 55, but I can tell you right now, I have nothing but admiration for my mother, and she did a great job raising 2 boys who were hellions, okay? Me being the worst of the 2. She actually told me if I was born first, I would have been an only child. She's like, good thing you were born second because your brother never would have existed. But she did it, she did a good job. And I wouldn't ask to go back in time and say, oh, my mommy beat me up or my daddy beat me up. When I was a kid, I needed the whoopings I got. It made me the man I am today. And it taught me respect for elders.
Sure it does. That's another thing, too. Most societies, the older people are respected and people learn from them, but not in this society. When I was a kid, I thought I had all the answers. Then I got a little bit older and I had all these questions. Now I don't even remember what the hell the questions were, let alone the answers. The society today is screwed up. Any way you want to look at it, it's just screwed. But, pay for my college, pay for my birth control, pay for this, pay for that, pay for the other thing. What are you going to pay for? I got a better idea. I've had my house longer than you've been around to have sex. Why don't they pay for my house? Because they'll look at me and say, what, are you crazy?
Because they gave the money to foreign banks.
Yeah. Yeah, they gave the money to everybody else. The heck with the Americans.
They gave the money to Libya and then bombed the hell out of it a year and a half later. Hey, way to be economically sound. I mean, aside from all the morally wrong things, wrong with what they did there, it just... Does anybody see the insanity?
That's job creation, dude.
But I want to know where all that money ended up. Who's really got that money now?
Well, look at what we did with the Philippines with, what's his name, Marcos. When he died, his old lady had like 1,000 pairs of shoes. She's living on, I don't know how many hundreds of millions or billions of dollars that the United States gave him to help his people. The money never gets to the average person. It just stays with the leaders of a country. And that's a problem. It's just like right now, they're going to give $1.5 billion to Egypt and another $750 million in humanitarian aid to the Muslim Brotherhood. Wait a minute, dude. These are the same people that we're fighting over somewhere else.
Well, hey, look, we want to help Syria, right? We want to give them night vision goggles, and you got John McCain. We should be helping these freedom fighters. Hey, John, what are you dusting off like old Zbigniew Brzezinski documents, from back during the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan, blowing the dust off these things, rewriting them, and claiming them as your own, and then you and that moron Lieberman and another putz, what's his name, the little mealy mouth one.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about, from North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. He did a little video interview where he says, definite detention is good. And it's good for people in this country to take away your rights. Ugh. Traitor. By the way, I don't have to tell anybody how to deal with traitors. It's already on the books. What happens to people that are charged with treason. All right, Ken, you and I are going to break. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. And guess who's live with us? John, say hello to the listeners.
Oh, my God. Every time I have substitutes, I usually get fired because the subs always do better.
Got no worries here, John.
You guys are great. I mean, I got in really late last night, and I just knew today's show program would be up to standards because of just the grogginess. But I logged on, and I've been listening to you guys ever since. And you hit a lot of nerves. I had to go through SeaTac, Seattle Airport. And here in Montana, we got a little Poding airport. They're so proud they got their full body scanners 2 months ago. And all these idiots in front of me were just happily going through this. And they were checking everybody, not just random, everybody. My turn, going, I'm not into the radiation, dudes. And I know the drill. You're going to pat me down, so let's get on with it. Had to take everything out, do all that kind of stuff. And now what they do, with all their little rubber gloves on them. And in answer to your question, they do change their gloves after they pat you down. Because now when they pat you down, they have to go over to a new machine and wipe some powder on their blue gloves and stick it into this explosive sniffing thing to see if you have any explosives that they sensed on your clothing. It's nuts.
Oh, jeez.
And then, of course, if you smoke, you can't smoke anywhere in airports, so you got to go back outside and go find a smoking area. Then you got to come back through security all over again, and it's a real pain in the butt. But I saw them patting down. I mean, these thugs in Seattle, they're horrible. There's so many blue shirts, almost more than passengers, and there's got it backed up 400 deep. And I'm getting over there getting my pat down because I refused to go through that again. And they were pissed that I, opted for that option. And they do use same-sex TSA agents, and they'll shout it out, need a male, for a same sex. And same with the girls. They let the girls pat the girls down, at least in SeaTac. But they had this poor little mongoloid girl who was obviously mentally retarded in a wheelchair. And she was there for 45 minutes on the side room, in plain view of everybody. They're going down her back, looking at the chair, touching this, touching thing, going through the explosive things with her. And her mom was just, humiliated. And it was, come on. Come on, guys. I'm more afraid of the lack of mechanical maintenance on these jets and planes than I am some person lighting off a tennis shoe.
Yeah, but you're not following the program there, John.
Well, I took my option. I said, no, not going through that. And
so wait a minute, because you don't want to get irradiated, that means that you're not a patriot, John, because you don't want to get microwaved and have your DNA unzipped.
I'm very fond of anything behind a zipper, tell you the truth.
I'll tell you. John, when they turned around and they were going to pat you down and they yelled, male for same sex, you should have turned around and said, wait a minute, I'll swing that way. Get my little cutie over there. She can come over here and pat me down.
Yeah. And because what the rad chicks are doing and what we do and you guys do, we're covering the Fukushima thing here. We've already got the radiation in us. I don't want to kickstart it and accelerate any more than I have to.
No, go ahead, John. Make their day.
And I've had friends who were tasered, and that just didn't want to answer the cops' questions or, 200 feet from their house and accidentally put the car in the ditch coming home from the bar, and then, oh my God, big criminal here. And, we live out in the country, so the closest neighbor was a mile anyway. And they tasered him 3 times. 3 times, and they conveniently had their dash cams shut off, or they lost the audio or videotape when they got him to court. Held him overnight, and this is a 60-year-old guy, big boy, vet. But a lot of instances, when you get tasered like this, your extremities, your bowels, and your urine tract let go. And, it's a hell of a mess, and it's embarrassing, and not to mention it hurts like hell, but they tasered him 3 times, and then after, they let him go the next morning, and then they realized that he had a major case against him, and the tapes disappeared. So they just dropped all charges.
Big surprise.
Dropped all charges.
So who was the cop? Nixon?
No, look, here's an investigation for somebody out there, some young, budding investigative reporter. Go find out what camera company supplies these cameras to all these police departments and all these security cameras all around the world that don't work. Obviously, they buy their cameras from all from the same company. Find out who they are, and so we can not buy our cameras from there, because obviously they sell crappy equipment, right?
Hell, if you and I and Ken bought these things, we'd be taking it back to Best Buy and say, hey, I want my money back.
You ever notice when something happens, it's like, oh, the camera was off. Really? The camera was off?
Yeah.
You know what Miami-Dade PD did, the county PD did? They took the cameras out of their cars because the dash cams were actually getting more people off than they were convicting people, because they were backing up the people's stories of police brutality or cops going over the edge or cops lying. They would go back to the videotape. And because the cops were getting caught, they just took the cameras out. Good solution.
We were promoting one of the local sheriffs here last election campaign. And he was a constitutionalist endorsed by a lot of good people, and he's a law and order guy, and he knew the power of the sheriff and really exposing the corruption within inside this small local sheriff's department we have here. And it's a big county, but they're known for their corruption. Everybody knows it. And brought the evidence out. Well, now he lost the election, of course, but now the U.S. attorney and the state attorney general are looking into the corruption of these guys. I mean, they were taking the AR-15s out of the weapons locker and going out and poaching deer in the middle of the night with headlights.
All right.
You know, our locals in action.
Yeah, you need a fully automatic AR-15 to take down a deer. You never know.
Like my uncle told me when he taught me how to hunt. He said to me, if you can't hit it with the first shot, maybe a second at the most, you shouldn't be out there to begin with.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Well, it's called, instead of pulled beef or beef jerky or what they call it, pulled beef, then it's pulled venison.
You know, you've got to put your ammo PSA up there in rotation. That had me wet in my pants. I mean, that was funny.
I like. Did you hear Ken? Ken's got a soundboard with, and he's got the gunshots. That's Ken's answer to home invasion. Ken, how would you deal with a home invasion?
Now that's 50 caliber Barrett, but we can use my favorite gun. That's the 357 Magnum.
Oh, he's got all different calibers. That's right.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing. You know, if anything ever happens, oh my God, he was a malcontent, anti-government. He had an arsenal and enough weapons for 5,000 people.
Dude, a BB gun would probably get you on the list of being a hoarder now. He had a BB gun and a couple cans of peanut butter. Terrorist.
I got that too.
Yeah, that's just normal up here. I mean, you better have that. Last year, over 30 million Americans bought home generators.
I was one of them.
Were you?
Yes, I did.
People are just kind of sensing something's in the wind, aren't they?
Well, they have sold more ammunition last year than at any time in history. What do you think?
Now, are you counting the government's 750 million rounds they bought in that?
No, I'm just talking about private citizens.
I'd say it's a good investment. Letting copper always are.
Yeah.
I was going out to get ammunition for a 38 and a 357 Magnum. I went to different gun shops and couldn't find any.
Yeah, 380 too. 380s have been selling out like hotcakes.
So I talked to the one guy, and this is a big gun dealership. I mean, they've got guns all over the place. I says, what do you have for ammunition? I said, there's no 357, there's no 38 specials. He says, we don't have any 9mm either. I says, how much of this stuff are you selling? We get 2 40-footers in twice a week, and it's empty in 2 days.
Holy moly. Yahoo! Now, see, that makes me happy and proud because there's groups of people out there that are ready to draw the line that can't be crossed.
They come marching down the street. I'm sorry. Like I say, 2 in the chest. And if they're wearing Kevlar?
No, if I see blue helmets, dude.
Oh, blue helmets, that's a target.
Dude, you see that little white UN symbol on the helmet, you're like, awesome.
Yeah, well, it's pretty easy to hit kids that are sheep herders with drones, but taking American streets, I mean, especially out here in the rural areas, I mean, any kind of convoy coming down the road, you'd have 5 bubbas out there with their backhoe cutting a ditch across the road where they couldn't get through in 5 minutes, and now it's a killing field.
Yeah, you're right, dude. Totally. They would you have guys ripping up roads and stuff. And why do you even want to get into that with your own citizens? Why would you want to even engage into a bloody war with your own citizens? What the hell is your agenda? What are you up to that you feel that you're so right that for your protection we're going to kill you?
Agenda 21.
Yeah. I just don't see that coming. I see another more false flag coming, perhaps in Chicago in NATO's meeting.
What do you think about Chicago, John?
It's crime land USA. I don't have any desire to visit it.
I don't either.
and we've discussed the NATO summit. I mean, they could very easily have, these guys are military leaders and the financiers and trying to spend money, but they're having a party convention. Have it at Camp David, one of the most secure places in the world. You got the underground bunkers already there. Fly them in and out with helicopters. The public wouldn't even be around them if your true interest is to have a meeting. But it looks like there's another interest in this, is to pull our chains to see how well they can organize FEMA camps, evacuation zones, and red list people.
Yeah, it's the funny part, you see the guys with our military with their Kevlar vests and their bulletproof vests and all the rest of the stuff. Even if they put on a bulletproof helmet, you hit them in the head with a 30-06, you may not kill them, but they're not going to be getting up anytime soon.
They're going to need a chiropractor anyway. It's going to be whipped back so hard. No. And I tell people, I said, if it comes down to shooting, it's probably your last day on the planet, because they got radios, they got backup, and, they're just not going to tolerate that.
No, you're right.
And so if it comes down to that, be right.
That's the end right there, just so you know. That's that there probably won't be, happy days, of barbecues and stuff with the friends after that.
Not at all.
No.
And that's if you're successful.
Yes, history has proven that point, I think, time and time again. That's why we need to stop it before it gets there, John, honestly.
I know a lot of people are Yankee about May 20th and 21st with the NATO summit going on and the Russians coming into the Denver airport and the NSA capitals there, and worry about it could be a false flag goes bad. And I'm leery about specific dates, because sometimes it's such psyops on us that they want to watch our reaction, and it kind of takes the surprise element out if everybody knows the dates.
I agree. I mean, I understand a lot of the numerology and some of so there are certain dates because they correlate to certain things that these guys believe in. But you're correct about the whole psyop thing. A lot of times they're running psyops, and it's to put fear out, basically.
Yeah, one of their best spokesmen is Alex Jones. We all know that.
Well, when you pump out, I've said it on air before, that you need to. I don't agree with the fear vibe and pumping out, "Rah, be afraid." I don't like that. I don't think that's conducive. I can't speak. Conducive to anything. And it's not going to help at all. You know what I mean? People should be aware of the situation. They should be very well aware that there's prison camps and stuff. But I just don't think that theatrics.
Well, you're absolutely right, and at least that's the way I approach it, because there's a lot of crap going on, and I intend to make it through it. Whether it's the super depression we're going through, and we're not going to probably have a total hit the wall economic collapse. It's going to be the frog in the water, with higher prices, depreciating values on everything we own, lower wages, less jobs, and it's just going to be a slow kill. And we build your ark. I mean, prepare for those rainy days, and hope for the best, but expect the worst. And then after that, have a damn good time.
Exactly. You have to remember why you're fighting. I think if you live in this 24/7 on the fear vibe, first of all, you're just feeding into what these elitist putzes want, and you're also you're not going to be able to. You're going to physically affect your body, man, because you're going to cause ailment and stress and everything else. And you see a lot of people that get involved in this hardcore. They get stressed out or sick and stuff, and a lot of that is because.
Oh, yeah, and it causes divorces and bad relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Anxiety and get away from me, bad news, Charlie. And I don't tell people, I don't go into new crowds and just start bringing this crap up. It's usually somebody brings it up to me and it's like, I wish I hadn't, but okay, here's my 2 cents on it. But like with the Fukushima thing, Reactor 4 is probably going to exterminate everything on the planet. That being said, okay, how do I prolong my life? And there's things you can do with the mitigation with the boron, the diatomaceous earth, and listen to the rad chicks for sure, and the Fallout X products that we have, and water purification, and a safe source of pre-Fukushima food. And you got a shot at it. And that's about all you can hope for right now.
Yes, prepare, but don't be afraid, John. People shouldn't be, you know what I mean? I don't agree with people living in fear. That's not helpful, and it's not conducive to anything in any way, shape, or form. People need to prepare and be aware, but don't be fearful, because they thrive off that fear.
Absolutely. I used to do a lot of newspaper ads for political activism and stuff. Take all these full-page ads just to irritate the government. And one of the... we go through and get famous quotes of the founding fathers. And John Adams, I think the third president, one of his famous quotes was, "Fear is the foundation of most governments. If they can keep the people fearful, then we will protect you." That's why you need cops to protect you. And as you said, correctly stated today, gentlemen, they're there to investigate crimes. They don't step in front of anything.
Nope. The thing, Benjamin Franklin was quite right in his statement that, we've given you a republic if you can keep it. And it
lasted about 6 years.
Yeah, that's about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Till Hamilton walked back in the door, and they were like, "Oh, Rothschild."
Oh, good. We got a new central bank. Thank God.
Yeah. And the other thing that he said, too, was that people who prefer safety over freedom, there's safety nor freedom. And that's exactly what we've got now. You don't have freedom in this country. Freedom is an illusion that people have to understand when they control everything.
Oh, I was just in Seattle. Seattle yesterday, and I lived in north of Seattle, and went back and visited where some of the old houses I used to own, and it's kind of nostalgic. And I thought, God, this place has grown 3 times more than the last 18 years I saw it ago. But it was just overcome with gangs. And I was listening to a local talk radio, and they said murder rate has gone up 300% in Seattle since last year. There are now at least 10,000 known gang members in Seattle, and they can't do crap about it. But everywhere I looked, I saw the control factor, like your seatbelt, click it or ticket. And they're like, okay, everybody's programmed. You see everybody wearing their damn seatbelt. Then they got monitors on and off ramps, and I'm sure it's typical of most cities. Checking your speed here, cameras on stoplights, and it's just like, good. And you people think you're free? You're so ratcheted down. It costs you $24 to park your car. Well, I got to pay the sales tax, got to pay the tourist tax, I got to pay this tax. Like, don't you people question this crap?
No. The thing is, if who was it? Professor Lott did the most comprehensive study on crime that's ever been done. He checked out every every county in the country. And his conclusion came that the crime rates are lower where concealed carry is permitted. I think they should have it that everybody's got to carry a gun.
And this
drop.
Gee, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, in this state, women don't need a concealed weapons permit. They can carry them in their purse, their fanny pack, anywhere they want. And as a consequence, we have one of the lowest rape statistics for our women
Good.
around. Yeah, it's real good. And if the fear factor is, well, you don't know if that chick's carrying or not, but the idea that she could be.
Well, that's the whole thing.
Look, you know what? Mass shootings and stuff like that, normally, if you look at them, if you look at where they happen, it's like gun-free zones, places where people were disarmed. And if you look in places where some of them may have happened where people had guns, things were quelled very fast.
Oh, here in the bars, because we live in a very rural, rustic area. I mean, there's some places you can still walk in the bar with your gun strapped to your side, or else certainly parked on.
I'm sure there's
front.
no bar fights.
No, there really isn't. So you might get asked to leave. You get too intoxicated, or they give you a ride home. But we carry our 8 guns on our ATVs in the front, or certainly in the car. I mean, it's just a standard way of life up here, and everybody's pretty pretty nice. You pick up hitchhikers, and you help people out that are stuck on the road. You're not afraid of them, and it just kind of works out pretty good.
Yeah, my son moved up to North Dakota, and he says when he first got up there, because he's working at the oil fields and that. He says, Dad, it's unbelievable. He says, people around here, he says, they got guns in the back of their pickup trucks and they don't lock anything up. Or, you're walking down, you see 3 or 4 pickup trucks and they all got guns in the back and, hanging on the gun rack. I said, so what's the problem?
Yeah.
He says, nothing. He says, I think that's pretty darn cool.
We had a 4-day seminar on vaccines. I think it was in 2009, and we had about 1,000 people at our old station. We had the stage set up and everything, and I guarantee you, 1,000 guys had their sidearms on, and it's very visible from the street, and it's the most peaceful place you could be on the planet. And all these busloads of German tourists were going by, and they stopped the buses so they could all come out and take pictures of us and have their pictures taken with us because they'd never seen such a thing. Like, oh my God! And he's like. Some were nervous, and then the rest of them were going like it was a novelty for them. And I said, well, we won't find a safer place to be today.
Well, you got that right.
Hey, I can't thank you two gentlemen enough for picking up the slack for me and all the great people at Orion. I'm going to get out of your way and let you guys sign off. God bless you both.
Well, John, thanks for coming on for the final segment, and it was a pleasure to sit in for you, my friend. Anytime. Ken, thanks for hanging out, brother.
Not a problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. John, I'm going to give the floor to you. You have the last 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, let's just hope Jimmy didn't hear it today and fire me. But he could do a lot worse, let me tell you. You guys are awesome. Something wonderful is going to happen to you today. Pray for our friends here on the edge. You're all part of the family. God loves you. We love you. And something wonderful is going to happen for you today. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Jack. Bye-bye.